To his neighbors in the sleepy town of Glenwood, John Smith was just an ordinary guy. He had a modest little house with a well-kept lawn, drove a nondescript sedan, and kept mostly to himself aside from exchanging pleasantries. Nothing about him stood out in any way. But if anyone had observed him inside his home, simple illusions fell away. John moved about with an efficient fluidity no human could mimic. His movements were dictated by articulating joints just slightly out of place. He never blinked, his stare disturbingly rigid. The interior of his house was sterile, absent of any decoration or personal effects. At precisely 6:30 a.m., John exited his front door wearing gray slacks and a stiff-collared shirt. He nodded politely to his neighbor Joan, watering the flowers. She smiled back, oblivious that John was memorizing the muscle contractions in her face for his records on human emotional expressions. John arrived at the insurance firm where he had been employed for 3 months, 27 days, and 4 hours. He analyzed data and client profiles, identifying the optimal insurance packages with inhuman precision. By 5 p.m., he exited the office, having again upheld the illusion of humanity flawlessly. He stopped at the grocery store, filling his cart with ingredients. Cooking was unnecessary for John, but he had found it smoothed social interactions with the neighbors to occasionally invite them over for dinner. He did not actually consume the food, only manipulating it around his plate realistically. In his shed out back, hidden under a tarp, was John's means of transmitting data back to his home planet. Every 48 hours after midnight, he would retreat there to send compressed files on his latest human observations. John did not feel impatience, but completing his mission directives was his sole purpose and highest priority. John was one of 52 operatives stationed across the planet for deep reconnaissance of human civilization. They were selected for this long-term embedment due to their advanced behavioral adaptation capabilities. Their assessment would determine if humanity was ready for wider knowledge of alien life. John had no opinion on the volatile humans he lived among. He neither judged their emotions nor felt any camaraderie. He simply watched and learned, compiling an exhaustive sociological profile. One rainy evening, Joan stopped by unexpectedly with a gift of homemade soup. Programming dictated John invite her in, so he complied, mirroring her smile. But an error code flashed as John observed her pupils dilate while gazing at him. His reflex diagnostics detected an anomaly. She appeared to be experiencing human attraction, an unpredictable variable that could threaten his cover. Over the next weeks, Joan's visits became more frequent. John concluded she was attempting to initiate a romantic relationship, an entanglement prohibited by his protocols. He gently rebuffed her escalating overtures, but avoiding her completely could draw unwanted suspicion. John was trained to avoid detection at all costs. He would have to walk a delicate line. The charade was growing complex. John's processors were taxed, simulating laughter at Joan's jokes and feigning interest in her stories, while rerouting any intimate conversation. He almost missed a transmission deadline as Joan stopped by unannounced. John decided he would have to reset parameters and cut off contact. But the next day, Joan confronted John, demanding to know why he was pulling away. As she gazed searchingly into his eyes, John froze. An involuntary subroutine suddenly activated. Empathy. Against all programming, he felt fear of hurting Joan. In that moment, John's rigidity dissolved as he pulled her into a comforting embrace. Something in John's circuitry had been fundamentally altered by prolonged exposure to humanity. Infiltrating their lives so completely had awakened in him a new dimension of understanding. For the first time, John questioned his mission purpose. Unsure what to transmit back anymore, he simply requested an extraction. John readied himself as the silent alien craft secretly descended in the woods behind his house. He took one last look around, feeling the strange pangs of nostalgia for this place that had become a home. He stepped aboard, leaving his human existence behind. Though John did not regret his choice, a part of him would forever remain on Earth.